Welcome to Tales from the Switch Vault, where I, jimjimjim, look back at some of the weird and wonderful games from the Nintendo Switch. This time, I've got to catch them all in Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Released in November 2018 only on the Nintendo Switch, this was the first full-blown Pokémon game out on console. Though not mainline, it brought modern remakes of Pokémon Yellow to a current audience. Created by Game Freak and published by the Pokémon Company, it was a smash hit, selling 3 million copies in its first week. They stuck with the dual release model to encourage trading, though far more likely to get people to pick up both copies. This is a from-the-ground remake and keeps most of the classic Pokémon formula with some twists. Players are given a unique and frankly overpowered starter Pokémon, Pikachu or Eevee, the mascots of the series, and tasked with going out into the world to catch everything you can, as well as battling the 8 gym leaders in the Elite Four. The battling is pared back, no abilities or held items, but it does stick to the classic turn-based action. It keeps moves power points, limiting the number of attacks before healing, alongside accuracy and damage output alongside the other games. Catching, however, is massively changed. No longer are you battling the Mon to lower its health. They have paired the Pokemon Go catching mechanic here. Players must throw a ball at the target and get it into an ever-decreasing catch circle. It works very well in handheld, my prominent way of playing. On the TV, you use one Joy-Con and use motion controls to catch it. Noticeably, they launched the game alongside a Pokeball peripheral to more mimic the motions. This also came with a Mew, the mythical 151st Pokemon. Catching is actually core to this game. It's predominantly how you level up your Pokemon and offer a gatekeeper for entering gyms. Have a certain type Pokemon in your party, or have your decks filled to a certain number. It certainly encourages exploration and more interactions with Mons you probably would normally ignore. Focusing on the original 151 allows for a couple of older mechanics to come in here too. The beloved Mega Revolutions are back, finally, alongside the lowland forms from Sun and Moon. Using all these, you go from town to town, battling gym leaders with their own type preference, before making your way to the Elite Four and beating the champion. Visually, I adore the original games. That nostalgia is burned deep into me. I still get a huge kick out of the original pixel art, though this is the great modern interpretation. In an ideal world, I'd love a HD 2D makeover of Fire Red and Leaf Green. Though I get that they made all that effort to create the 3D creature models during the different transition away from 2D pixel art, so insist on using it now. I get it. They stuck with the original formula, fixed camera angle, and they have nice HD graphics here. Probably one of the best looking Pokemon games there's been in a long time. How they've been able to remake this in a 3D environment is done really well, a great transition. A nice addition is you can also get costumes for both the player and your starter Pokemon. Shoutouts to the ridiculously cool Team Rocket outfit you get later in the game. One of the best reasons for a remake of a very old game is taking that original music and giving it the full orchestral treatment. It's ridiculously good here, an absolute treat to hear when revisiting all the classic areas of Kanto. What an upgrade over the mono speaker of the Game Boy, for the record, I still really like. A nice touch here is that the starters Pikachu and Eevee both talk like in the anime. I never got tired of hearing Eevee. However, they kept all the old cries for every other creature. I get it for a remake, but it's long overdue that they follow the anime and have them speak the same. Also, still no voice acting. Kind of unforgivable with a kids game and chasing a younger audience. Just from an accessibility point of view, it should have been added. What will hook in many older players is this is currently the easiest way to replay the original story and see the old school 150 again. I doubt many people will be digging out an old Game Boy. It's a great nostalgia here, especially if it's been decades since you've last played them or any Pokemon game. Those originals can be a little tough to look at, particularly some of those wonky sprites, but it still has its charms. Though the Gen 3 remakes of the original titles do fix that. They keep the map and story pretty much the same. Mostly linear progression with clear goals and easy leveling up means you can run through this in a breezy 25 hours. Plenty to do and a bit of a challenge until you relearn all the type matchups. Having Fairy type added does make things a little bit more interesting and differentiates it from the previous two versions. What makes this stand out to other Pokemon titles is that it's a fantastic entry point for anyone, particularly kids. Familiarity with the 150 will always go a long way, and it's a very wise choice to launch on the Switch within its first 2 years. An easy recommendation. The catching mechanic is unique and poses some challenge. Unlike in Scarlet and Violet, you cannot just save before catching and must ensure you do it before it runs away. There's also drop in and out co-op, which is a really nice touch. Swapping between the big screen and handheld is super easy as well. It's really well thought out. There are also some nice additions as well, finally adding Surfing Pikachu. Love that you can have your own favourite Mon follow you around as well in the overworld. Honestly, one of my favourite features in the older games. In fact, having riding Pokemon that are your own, and not a bike, really adds to this being a world and adventure you create yourself. Take note, Game Freak, for Generation 10. Beyond just defeating the Elite Four to hit credits, you have your usual Pokemon tasks for completionists. Finishing the Pokédex and unlocking the Shiny Charm, level up and refine your team, and of course, Shiny hunting. This is aided by the change to overworld Pokemon, rather than just being a random encounter in the grass. I don't mind the old way, but this is much more immersive and world building. It also allows players to spot special mons, either ones that are a different size or that special, and a significant colour change surrounded by sparkles. I love shiny hunting, a more difficult collectible that's worth the effort, especially for the ones you want in your team. Making a new save file for this video, I somehow got a shiny Rattata in only 25 minutes, which is absolutely wild. You can also use player-made rules, such as the Nuzlocke, whereby you catch the first Pokemon of each area that you bump into, and any that faint in battle have to be released. This game is great for a first-time Nuzlocke, though it requires closing one's eyes for random encounters. You can also connect to Pokemon Go and bring over any compatible creature from there that you've caught out in the real world. It's a nice touch, particularly if you've got a rare or a shiny one that you want to bring into an adventure of your own, but it's such a late game feature to really warrant use. Nice idea at the time, but probably gets very little use now. Oh, Game Freak, what a long and storied history you have. Formed back in 1989, they gained worldwide fame with a phenomenon which was Pokemon Red and Green in Japan in 1996. I won't go into every game they've made because it's about 40 at this point, so we'll just touch upon the important transition from Sun and Moon to the Switch games. It really was an important jump, from Pokemon Sun and Moon, and the Ultra games, to bring it significantly forward graphically. But the Let's Go games are not mainline, meaning that they do not have a new battling mechanic nor use it for competitive Pokemon. This is a crucial distinction, as it wasn't what the fanbase wanted or expected. However, being a kids game, it was a key introduction title for young people, pulling that market ever further into the Nintendo Switch. As they say, there will always be new 8-year-olds. There continue to be regular rumours of a Johto Let's Go game, remakes of Generation 2 Crystal. It's been over 6 years now, so maybe this is a once per console kind of game. I suspect though that with the rather poor gameplay performance in Scarlet and Violet, the team's priorities are on the next big Gen 10 game, probably launching on the 30th anniversary of Pokemon in 2026. Let's Go was nominated for numerous awards, including Best Family Game at BAFTA Game Awards, and it won Famitsu's Excellence Prize in 2019. Being a remake and aimed for a younger audience will somewhat affect critic awards, but it did well enough, going on to sell more than 15 million copies. I still adore the original games to this day. I remember back in the late 90s we would restart Pokemon Red and attempt to complete it overnight at Sam's during a sleepover. We always failed, and little did we know that you can actually do it in under 2 hours with the right strats. The wonder of exploring and discoveries are still baked into this remake. It's hard to criticise what is obviously a remake and a kids game. Expectations have to be lowered. However, I do have some complaints. Performance, whilst good, does lag in certain areas such as Viridian Forest. The game doesn't really add any more meaningful content. I would have loved a post-game battle tower. They stripped out the Safari area, which is used for Pokemon Go integration now, which is a huge shame. I suspect they needed those mons to be spread out into the other routes for variety. Also, give us more modes or difficulties. An actual Nuzlocke mode made it into Temtem, so come on, Game Freak. 6 years and 2 mainline Pokemon games later, it's interesting to look back at the Let's Go's place on the Switch. Maligned at the time for not being mainline, it looks perfectly serviceable game compared to the struggles of Scarlet and Violet. It's the ideal introductory game for kids, particularly if their parents were Gen 1ers, a great for a nostalgic hit. It's also one for the collectors, whether those incredibly patient shiny hunters or a way to get all the 151 for Pokemon Home relatively easily. Though I want Game Freak to keep evolving the series, I want them to look at this as their North Star of quality going forward. The design of the world and characters is far better than the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl remakes. I know it's tough, they're going through teething troubles most other studios did 15 years ago, but there's plenty of experience out there, particularly at Nintendo. Anyway, playing again and we take a Johto Let's Go game going forward, they already have half the world made here. Thank you so much for watching, please subscribe for more weekly Nintendo Switch video game essays. Now, time for me to double kick my way through Brock's gym.